Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drain the primary oil out, which is done on this one. It's that nut there on the bottom, sorry, bolt, drain plug, whatever you want to call it. So basically what I am going to do, and I'll do it off camera rather than watching, is I'm going to take the rear foot peg off. There's the fuel pack just hanging down. I'm going to bolt that up, not bolt it, fit it into there and cable tie it in, because I'm going to, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using the auto tune on this when I get going, so that'll be all tidied up. But for now I'm going to take this foot peg off, footboard, take that footboard off, that rear heel shifter pedal. Then once I've drained the oil, I'll take the primary cover off, and I'm going to be taking out the auto tensioner, chain tensioner, and fitting the manual chain tensioner. So once I've got to the point of I've got the cover off, I'll come back then. Right, won't be too long. Right, I've just took the cover off, the primary cover. Oh, everything seems to be in good nick, there's no lumps there. That's nice smooth oil, dirty oil to be fair, considering it meant to have had a service just before I got it. But one of the things I wanted to show you, the reason, oh fucking Asda man, the reason I'm changing from the auto adjuster to a manual one, this bike is cold. I started it up maybe, well, I don't know, I can't even remember, it'd be an hour and a half ago when I did that sound check, when I put the pipes back together. So the bike's cold, as in this, I mean that's even cool to the touch on the cylinder. I'm having to put a bit of pressure on my finger to get that to move. Can you see it? You're meant to have, on a cold chain, 5/8 to 7/8. You'd be lucky if you've got fucking quarter inch on that, and that's cold. So imagine that's going to be fucking seriously tight when it gets hot. So what I'll do, I'll gather some tools and get me my new manual adjuster ready, and we'll set to, we'll get this taken out. I'll show you how to knock this fucking thing out so it's slack. I've got some slack in it, should I say. Yeah, and then we'll crack on and change it. So I'll just knock you off for a minute and I'll be back soon. Right, put my tools together, I'll get myself in a position so I can sort this out. Right, to get the tension off this, as you see it's very tight at the minute. What I use is one of them pointy screwdrivers, just a pointy tool, which I try and shove in there just to get a gap. It just lifts that up slightly, and then what I can do is just, right, that's just gone to its sort of minimum, if you know what I mean. So holding it down, get a screwdriver under here. It's trying to push itself back up already, and then just get a cable tie, a zip tie, whatever you want to call them. Come on. And then basically right, lost the battery then. I watched the clip back that I just did just to see how much it had missed, but it hadn't missed any. I just pulled that cable tie tight. So basically what I'm going to do now is undo the two bolts that hold the tensioner on. Before I take that off, actually, with it being slack, how much extra movement in that now? Now, a cold engine should never have been tight. A slack chain is a happy chain, a tight belt is a happy belt. So you've took the bolts out and just lift your adjuster out. There is wear in it, so I'll just put that to one side. One thing I want to check. Put the manual adjuster. Let's see how it sits in. And lines up. I'll take this back out in a second and give you a better look at it. I'll just get it to where its holes are. That's spot on. I've had these in the past where they don't fucking sit straight, you've got to put a spacer behind them. So I just thought I'd give that a quick check before. I'm going to wipe some of the oil out of that as well. So, how these things work. Loosen these two bolts off. Don't need to loosen them off massive amounts. You've got an adjuster bolt. Just take these screws in there. And then basically, as you can see there, it's starting to push it. And because that sits on an angle, as it pushes it, it takes up the tension. But the same sort of setup as that's got teeth on it, so as this. You can see maybe better in that bit there. And they lock on. Once you've got it to your tension, you tighten them up. And like proper tight. I'm just nipping them a touch. So you lock them up and that's it, that can't move, it can't lift up. It just can't move. Now the options you've got then is once they're locked in, you can wind that back out and just take it out. I've done this in the past where I've just took this out. So you're relying on your teeth, which is fine because it's got teeth on both sides and they are good strong, you know, it's not going to come loose. But if you want to leave this in so it's pushing against the back of it, you can put the nut on and the lock washer that comes with it, so that when you get your tension up, so I'm just going to assume that this is at tension, so it sits in its little groove there. So once you've got that tight, you wind your lock nut up. There's a spring washer underneath. You nip that up tight and it stops that moving, so you've got an extra sort of thing with this. But the ones where I've took that out, they've never moved. It's just up to the individual really. Two trains of thought really, and you could say if you're always doing your work at home, you'll always have this kicking about, unless you stick it in your toolbox, your tool bag with your stuff. There is that thing that if you need to do any work on this on the roadside, which the likelihood is you're going to ring a fucking recovery services if something's gone tits up, if it's not there you can't adjust it. So it's up to the individual. So before I put it in, I'll knock you off. I'm just going to give this a clean out on the bottom, just get rid of the last remnants of the old oil, and then I'll come back and we'll start fitting it in. Right, won't be long. Right, I'm going to get this thing fitted in now. Screw the adjuster in. Empty my pockets. Right, so this thing basically just bolts straight in place of the original. So get it positioned and then grab you use the original bolts, put a bit of Loctite on. Same front one. Right, wind these in. Right, and the torque settings for these, just the same as standard, 33 Newton meters. The only thing I forgot to get was a ruler. So, just quickly locate one. Should do the job. Another thing I forgot to frigging get was the right size Allen key. Bigger. Right. So, take these fucking glasses. No, I won't, because I'll need them for the fucking tape. So release these two. Well, don't release. Just loosen them off slightly. And that should allow that to move now. So I'll just get myself lowered down. And just start turning it. As you can see there, it's starting to push it up. I hope you can see, it's not my head in the way. I keep your arm backwards. You can see it sort of lifts up and then drops, and what that is, see it's starting to lift now and it'll drop in a second. There, see when it dropped there? That's the adjuster. As you're pushing it up, it's lifting up and then dropping into the tooth. Lifting up and dropping into the tooth. So what you want is between 5/8 and 7/8 of play. So I'll just put that. So that's a 1.5. Quite to dig. Fucking ass. That needs to go up a little bit more yet. Go tight and then it'll drop, which it just has. And just push it so it's flat. In the right place, so that's on 1 3/8. I keep pushing I'm trying to keep this out as far as I can. I keep pushing the fucking thing off. So that was on 1 3/8, now it's on 5/8, 6/8, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. What the fuck sort of measurement's that? One, 2, 3, 4. That's in fucking tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to use the other side. Can all rule this. So 1, 2, 3, dig. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so that's like your halfway point for cold. So it's on 3/4, 5/8 to 7/8 for a cold chain. So now that you've got your I'm just going to nip this with the spanner for now until I get my socket. You lock these and what it does while it's locking it actually pulls it down onto the teeth more, but it proper locks it in place. And when I've tightened these up with the spanner, I'll final tighten them with a socket, but I'll just double check. My measurement. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is now it's in between 6/8 and 7/8, so it's like 13/16. So I'll just, where the fuck's that box gone? Oh, so completely in the wrong place to where I wasn't expecting it to be. It's 7/16. And just nip them up tight. Now basically once they're tight, you've got little locking tabs on the washers behind it. You want to be folding both of them up so that they can't come loose. They shouldn't come loose because they're tight, but just fold your locking tabs up anyways. Once I've got them so far, I'll get the grips in. Well, I need to. I'm marking it a bit with the screwdriver, but basically I'm actually getting these locking tabs up in place. Right, so them locking tabs are locked onto different positions, so they ain't coming loose. So here's where your options lie. That's tight up against the back, so you can wind your nut in. And then get your spanner in and lock that in, or you can just take that out. Now because you've got it all locked here and it's tight in on its teeth there, that's going nowhere. And what I will say as well is the last few times that I've done my my other ElectraGlide, my 2005, that they come standard with manual adjusters on. When I've gone in to check, like when I do a service or something like that, I've gone in to check the primary chain, I haven't had to adjust it for the last, at least the last fucking 5 services anyways. So once you get these set, they're spot on. Right, I'm just going to knock you off for a minute, I'll be back soon. Right, I knocked camera off then because girlfriend was coming towards me just to let me know that she's starting tea. So what I was saying is you can tighten that nut up and leave that in, but I'm not, I'm actually taking that back out and just leave it out for me. So I'll just quickly wind that out. Right, so that's the adjuster bolt out, and as I say, I've done well, I don't know how many I've done to be fair, but a lot of them I do leave the bolts out and give them to the lads, and they've all been fine. There's one or two I've left in because I know that, like, and I bolted it up like I was shown there. Because I know that if I was to give the bolt to the lad that he would lose it. So next step is nice slack chain. Find the as you can see on there, I've took the little O-ring off, which I don't even know what I'm doing with it. There it is. The old O-ring looking a bit raggy, so let me go down there. I'll have a new one on. So a bit of shit off the end of there. And then just put the new O-ring on and roll it down. Make sure it's not twisted on itself. And then basically, as I've said in umpteen videos, I always put a little bit of thread sealer on. Now I put it sort of halfway down the threads, and I just put a really little thin bead all the way around. As I say, just a little thin bead all the way around. I'm just going to put this drain plug back in. So, hand under there and start screwing that back in. I've actually cleaned these threads out, that's what I did before. So nip it up and just nip it up with the spanner basically. I never bother torquing these up, wrong spanner. Just nip it up tight, not over the top tight, but just tight. It's not going to come out if you've got it right. A bit more oil drained out somewhere, probably won't need playing with chain. That bit out there. A bit on there. Right, and I'll just grab the new gasket. It's typical, I've got about 10 primary gaskets, but I didn't have a fucking one for this. Right, so just hang that over its locating dowels. I'll get the primary. Give it a clean bit of rag first. Just wipe the back of this off. Right, just wipe the back of the primary off. You'll see the oil all over the front of it. Well, smeared oil where I've wiped it off. So just put your primary in place. We'll get a bolt. Cut the threads out a bit. On these, just the littlest drop of Loctite, it's all you need. Would help if you had the right size Allen key at hand. Now just till it touches, don't tighten it up, don't even nip it up. So what you've got with these is you've got a load of obviously bolts right around the edges of it. Now the one I've just put in was a short one, like that one, which needs its threads cleaned as well. Like that one. But the 4 front ones, like 1, 2, 3, 4 at the front of the primary, are right long ones on this model. So you can't really get them mixed up, because if you put the long one into there, it'll only go that far, and then it'll go tight, so you'll have an extra foot peg. So you know, if that happens, you've put it in the wrong spot. So what I shall do is I'll just quickly clean this one off. I'll put this bottom one in, just a little dab of blue. find the oh, it's still in nothing. I'll just put this bottom one in. And again, just till it touches. So, quick check to make sure you've actually got your gasket in place and it hasn't flopped down at the bottom and you've put the bolts on the inside edge of it. Right, so I'm going to knock you off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the threads on the rest of these bolts. I'll get them all put in tight, and then when I come back we'll torque them all up. Right, won't be too long.